eroded public trust and distorted the role of the monarchy. "It was never about being modern," said one source inside Clarence House. "It was about being monetized." Long before the morning announcement on November 30th, 2025, long before the palace publicly erased the title Duchess of Sussex, there were private warnings, discreet glances, and sealed memos. The most chilling of them, according to insiders, came from Queen Elizabeth II herself, less than a year before her death. "Be careful of legacy being traded for spectacle," the late monarch reportedly wrote in a confidential note to King Charles in the spring of 2022. The message, cryptic yet unmistakable, referred to the growing rift with the Sussexes. At the time, the family was still reeling from the Oprah Winfrey interview and the explosive Netflix deal that followed. But behind the stoic royal expressions, Elizabeth II was watching closely. Back in February 2020, as Harry and Meghan announced their decision to step back from senior royal duties, the palace response was deliberately restrained. But documents now made public through the Royal Sovereign Archives revealed that Meghan received at least 3 confidential communications sent through seers with both palace and legal representation laying out terms of departure. Among those terms was a clause now being cited as the legal basis for the title revocation in 2025. Any deviation from these agreed representations, particularly if commercialized, shall be deemed incompatible with the continued use of the titles derived from royal grant. Meghan's sources claim responded once through a US-based attorney and then went silent. What followed was not just physical distance, but ideological rebellion. Netflix contracts, Spotify podcasts, a children's book with royal references, and ultimately a 6-part duories that depicted the palace as a cold, outdated institution. Insiders say the Netflix special, aired in December 2022, marked the breaking point, not in public sentiment, but in royal resolve. In the series, Meghan appeared to mock royal customs such as curtsying, indirectly accused the royal family of emotional neglect, and even implied racial undertones in the reaction to Archie's birth. One particular segment, where Meghan reenacted a theatrical curtsy before giggling at its absurdity, was said to deeply offend Queen Elizabeth. According to a former lady-in-waiting, the Queen remarked quietly, "Mocking the fabric of tradition isn't brave, it's ignorant." That same week, aides say the Queen sent a final personal note to her son Charles. The contents were never released, but its envelope bore one line, handwritten by Her Majesty. For the record, fueling the palace's unease were persistent rumors, never formally acknowledged, surrounding Meghan's pregnancies, particularly where a title holder persists in actions incompatible with royal custom, constitutional precedent, or institutional integrity. The Crown reserves the right to revoke, reassess, or reassign said title in defense of sovereign order and public trust. In private, Charles was reportedly more direct. "This is no longer about family," he told a senior aide. "It's about survival of the crown, of the record, of our duty." Unlike the removal of royal styles in the past, which often required parliamentary approval or constitutional negotiation, this revocation carried a unique distinction. Meghan was never granted the title by merit of birthright, nor through a royal patent bearing her name alone. As the spouse of a prince, her title was conditional, contingent upon continued alignment with royal standards. And when those standards, according to the king, had been not just breached, but commercialized, ridiculed, and inverted, the palace moved swiftly. There was no need for legal wrangling, no drawn-out debate in the House of Lords. Just a sealed order, a broadcast statement, and a quiet note to the College of Arms to update the official royal registry. Meghan Markle was no longer the Duchess of Sussex. Within minutes, social media platforms ignited. Hashtag Sussex title removal trended across continents. Commentators debated the timing, coming just 2 days before the royal family's annual Commonwealth Unity dinner. American outlets questioned the optics. Royal historians, however, saw something different: a long-awaited reset. This wasn't a grudge, said Dr. Helena Marbury, a constitutional scholar and biographer of King Charles. It was a structural correction, a sovereign correcting the excesses of an anomaly, but not everyone agreed. Allies of the Sussexes swiftly issued statements of protest. In a since-deleted tweet, a close associate of Meghan's wrote, "You can strip a title, but not a legacy." Another source from California suggested legal action may be considered. Still, Buckingham Palace remained firm. "This is not a punishment," said the Lord Chamberlain when pressed. "It is an institutional safeguard." While titles within the royal framework have long carried ceremonial weight, what concerned King Charles most was how this title had been weaponized for political, commercial, and personal gain. The Palace dossier, compiled over 6 months, highlighted key moments. Meghan's open mocking of royal curtsies on her Netflix special, her alleged invitations to royal relatives for filmed appearances without prior clearance, the unauthorized use of the Sussex crest in overseas contracts, her misrepresentation of royal protocols during interviews and promotional events. Each instance, officials argue, by direct order of His Majesty King Charles III, effective immediately. The title Duchess of Sussex shall no longer be recognized as a royal designation. With these 19 words read aloud from the Buckingham Palace press room at 9 a.m. on November 30th, 2025, the British monarchy took one of its most decisive and controversial steps in recent memory. There was no fanfare, no elaborate ceremony, just a statement, clear-clipped, unambiguous, delivered by Sir Clive Redwell, the newly appointed Lord Chamberlain, under the full authority of the Crown. Behind the velvet curtains and polished language, the implications thundered across global headlines. After months of escalating scrutiny and years of institutional strain, King Charles had finally drawn a line beneath the name Meghan Markle. What followed the announcement was not just a statement of title removal. It was a royal reckoning, a sovereign's attempt to preserve tradition, assert stability, and defend the enduring ethos of the monarchy. For the first time since ascending the throne, King Charles made the private rift between the Sussexes and the royal family a matter of public record. Sources close to the palace confirmed that preparations for this declaration had been underway since late July 2025, shortly after the Royal Advisory Council convened an internal audit of all title-bearing members. Meghan Markle's name surfaced repeatedly, not for her engagements, but for what insiders described as persistent and irreconcilable violations of royal dignity. The decision, however, wasn't made in isolation. It came at the end of an 18-month review of the Sussexes' post-royal ventures, their Netflix docu-series, debuted December 2022, the Spotify Fallout, their ghost-written memoir chapters, and most alarmingly, their attempts to repurpose royal connections for private deals. But it was King Charles's personal intervention that catalyzed the final act. Behind closed doors, Charles is said to have wrestled with the emotional dimensions of this action. As recently as September 2025, he reportedly made private overtures to Harry, phone calls, handwritten letters, even a proposed family summit at Sandringham. But those efforts were either rebuffed or rerouted through legal representatives. It was during a confidential session on October 14, 2025, Coinciding with the annual Privy Council review, that Charles signed what aides later referred to as Memorandum 17B, the internal document authorizing the removal of Meghan Markle's ducal title. The memo was co-signed by the Royal Princess and approved by the Lord Chancellor. Its contents were succinct